It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. This is your Feel Good Breakfast Show, Expresso, right here on SABC3. Thanks for joining us at the start of a brand new day, Friday morning. Of course,
yes.
We are looking forward to Nelson Mandela International Day, which takes place tomorrow. Now, when Nelson Mandela took on the office of presidency, he swore to only one term. But when Madiba tried to rally his former staff to continue his important work after stepping down, he had to be reminded that they no longer worked for him. And thus, the Nelson Mandela Foundation was born in 1999, and it is an organization that to this day works to build a just society by mobilizing his legacy and values. And joining us ahead of the commemoration of Mandela Day tomorrow, the 18th of July, is the Chief Executive of the Foundation, Mr. Sello Hatang. A very good morning, Sello. How are you?
Good morning. Well, it's a heavy day for all of us as a country, and it's a heavy day because we lost one of the stalwarts of our nation. And on behalf of the Nelson Mandela Foundation, I want to again express our deepest condolences to the Mandela family and to say to South Africans, like she did, we must continue to fight against racism. We must continue to fight xenophobia. We have to continue to be vigilant as we don't want our democracy stolen through corruption. So let's make sure that we play our part in building a country that Madiba dreamt of, but also that Zindzi dreamt of too.
You know, Sello, speaking of the courageous and indomitable character, rather, of the Mandela family, why is it so important for the foundation to continue to commemorate Mandela Day, especially in these times?
Look, it's important because it's actually a mandate that goes back to 2008. You'll remember that Madiba made that speech in 2008 saying the world remains beset by so much human suffering, poverty, inequality, and disease. It's in your hands to help build a different world. And what my predecessor, Ahmad Dango, then decided to do then with the team was for us to then say, how do we ensure that we continue Madiba's legacy? Because he was handing over the baton of leadership to us. And that meant that we had to then use his birthday to then do this. And I think for us as the foundation, it's an absolute honor to continue going back to our people saying, contribute to what's helping build that country. Madiba was no special in terms of him doing good for others. You can too.
Absolutely. Now, I think we all firmly believe that if Madiba were alive in these times, we know that he would be fighting this pandemic with all his might to its full effect and really using his influence to do that. How has the foundation been working hard on the ground since COVID-19, this pandemic hit us, to help communities in need?
You know, one of the important things that we need not forget is how Madiba fought another pandemic, HIV/AIDS. You'll remember how he put everything of his influence, including even wearing the T-shirt, I am HIV positive, to try and deal with stigma. And I think if we are to do anything different here as viewers of Expresso, is to then say, in the name of Madiba, let's try and fight this pandemic with everything we have. And as the Nelson Mandela Foundation, we partnered with the Kolisi and Mbumba foundations to go on the ground and help fight the pandemic. Another pandemic, of course, that is a struggle against poverty and inequality. And we did personally, I did about over 20,000 kilometers on the road, trying to then help deal with issues of hunger. And all these partnerships that we've had, we went to the rural areas where the GPS even signaled that you are in the middle of nowhere. It's because it's our obligation as a people to do so. Let's stand together and fight this pandemic, because the bigger pandemic is poverty and inequality. Let's contribute towards efforts to fighting this.
So you've got these partnerships with the Mbumba Foundation, the Siya Kolisi Foundation, of course, Rise Against Hunger as well. Why was it so important for you to partner with these specific organizations, obviously doing such amazing work in their respective spaces? Why was it important to tap into their networks? And what impact have you seen this outreach having on these communities that you've gone out to work with?
You know, one of the beauties of working with partners is that it then reminds us of how Madiba tried to break the back of poverty and inequality in South Africa by using partnerships with civil society and also with corporates. And I think as a nation again, as an institution again, we did the same thing. We identified who are the people on the ground. In fact, coincidentally, today would have been day 4 of climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. And Mbumba Foundation does that work. And I would have most probably been on the mountain climbing for girls who are struggling with their sanitary pads. And so Mbumba Foundation has been doing incredible work in that space. And because this year we couldn't do it, we've now partnered with others to say, let's continue to contribute towards sanitary pads. Of course, the Kolisi Foundation, new as they are in the field, they have touched so many lives. Hundreds of thousands of lives have been impacted by the work that they do. Stop Hunger Now is another one that we need to then be also thinking of to say, all these are institutions that have a track record. And if each one of us contributes towards their work, each one of their work, we are then impacting on the families that are struggling at the moment. You know, I could tell you many stories of how you get into someone's home. You can actually see you are their last hope. We went to South Hills this past weekend. I can't tell you how an old woman said to me, you don't know what you've done. I am looking after my grandchildren because I've lost my husband and I've lost my children. And you knocked at the door at the right time when I didn't know what I can give them. So I think it's important that we remember there are many who are struggling to just appreciate the democracy that we have because they have nothing to show for it. So let's play our part and try and deal with hunger in our communities.
I think it's so important that you are sharing messages like this so that we just further emphasize the impact of, one, the help that is being given out there and how people can then also get involved to make a difference. Now, the foundation is also ever busy connecting the incredible minds of people out there to engage in the profound values by which Nelson Mandela lived. So tell us a little bit about tomorrow's 18th annual Nelson Mandela lecture and how it'll be going forth in the digital space.
You know, this is an exciting moment for us as an institution, but of course it's also a worrying one because it's the first virtual Nelson Mandela annual lecture. You'd remember that we've always had the lecture held in a venue. Now with this virtual space, you are just hoping that the technology will agree. We've built an amazing technology in place, and I would like to urge all the viewers of Expresso to say, please go to nelsonmandela.org to follow the work that we will be doing tomorrow. The lecture will be delivered by the United Nations chief, Mtate Guterres. And the work that he will be touching on is we should not forget the bigger pandemic that's always been there, the pandemic of poverty. And we forget that this pandemic was not a pandemic that was brought to us by COVID. It's always been there. Yeah. Families that we meet as we're traveling, and you see how they are struggling, it's not because of COVID. They have always struggled. And we should then be doing more to deal with the pandemic of poverty and inequality. And if we don't, as Thomas Piketty said when we hosted him for the lecture, is that if we don't do anything in that regard, we are falling the trouble. We might be in trouble of having a revolution, a bloody revolution, he said. Yeah. So let's do everything possible to fight this pandemic of poverty and inequality. So please follow us on nelsonmandela.org to then follow this the lecture and also ask your questions there. And of course, it will also be carried live by SABC. And we are hoping that you will then join us at 3 o'clock as the UN chief that delivers this lecture.
Int'l Hatang, thank you very much.
Well, the late Tata Nelson Mandela did say it is now in our hands, and it truly is. We have the responsibility, we have the power to be able to go out there and effect change in the lives of so many people who so much need it. But of course, the information of all of these incredible initiatives and events that the Nelson Mandela Foundation is working on can be found on the foundation's website. It's nelsonmandela.org.